Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we have Jamie Cerretani on. Jamie, welcome.
Thanks, Will. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, excited to talk to you. I was just telling you, we chatted with Marcelo a couple of weeks ago. You're a part of his team this year, coming off of his second Roland Garros title. And I want to get to all of that, but the first thing I wanted to actually ask you about is in our text messages when I'm texting you back and forth, you're always saying about how grateful you are. You always say end a text with like always grateful or thank you so much. Why do you do that? And have you always had that kind of gratitude as far as your attitude goes?
Well, first of all, I was going to start by saying how grateful I am to be on your show. Um, so I think that's an appropriate first question.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really believe that having an appreciation for the little things in life, just good health, you know, clean water, nutrition, clean air, basic, super simple things, having a good night's rest and having hopefully a supportive family and a friend group around you and really appreciating and having gratitude for those things that seem very simple and basic, and they are to a certain degree. Um, when we, in my experience, and I think we express and feel and even just think about that gratitude every day and have that appreciation of little things, then what happens is that, in my experience, we end up creating more things to be grateful for. And
Mm,
so it's a very powerful ideology. And when I intentionally do that on a daily basis, the the things that happen day to day, and ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, look, we're looking for results, right? The results are profound. So that's really it in a nutshell. And also to answer, have I always been that way? Uh, I would say absolutely not. I think most human beings are not naturally that way. It's not the way that we're kind of programmed to be in an extremely competitive world and a very selfish world, not just tennis, but the world in general. I think other industries are extremely competitive and most are a zero sum game, not always. But I believe that that's traditional thinking and that I had a really good conversation with someone on JP Smith's team as well, who I'm also managing.
hmm
Um, and we talked about that exact thing and how we believe both of us, he's going through a similar mindset shift because that's what we do at Inspired. We focus on mindset. That's our number one priority. That there's a shift in mindset all across the globe, globally, from this self-thinking, self-based thinking to um, helping others and having a gratitude mindset for little things, and by doing that, I think that we're all hopefully going to be able to create a better life for ourselves and in the lives that we interact with every day. So, um, and who ends up benefiting the most? I think ourselves, which is kind of cool in the end. We all benefit from kind of thinking and acting that way and having actions that kind of align with that way of thinking. And it's
hmm
little stuff, man. It could be holding a door. It could be grabbing an extra water for someone on the team or someone that's, like you're kind of, you're going to see someone soon and you just grab something little for them and they appreciate that. And then it kind of goes back and forth and it's a positive snowball effect. So, yeah.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love texting with you because it reminds me to do that myself. Every time you send a text like that. And I've actually, we'll get to tennis in a second for the listeners, but I think this is a really important topic and it's obviously related to tennis as well. But I recently downloaded this app on my phone that sends you like random reminders throughout the day, and you can, I think it's called like the random reminder app or something, and you can plug in what you want it to remind you of. So one of the things that I have plugged into my phone is share with somebody something you're grateful for right now. And it's just randomly throughout the day, it'll send me that. So then I have to like look around, find something I'm grateful for, and then go and share it with somebody.
Love it.
So I
Love it.
love that practice. And to bring it back to tennis, one of
Mm,
the tips that I've given people in the past, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. A lot of people ask me, how do I perform better under pressure, right? How do I
mm,
stop double faulting when I'm nervous, or how do I play well in tiebreakers? And one of the
mm,
tips I've given people is to be grateful that you're out there, because it's very difficult, I think, to be both grateful and nervous or scared at the same time.
mm. I look, I think I need to start hanging out with you more because it sounds like you have a lot of good solutions that yeah, they work. Science, man. And I believe that to be true. I do a lot of reading. I definitely have not arrived. That's something that's a big part of the framework of my day. I'm always seeking and trying to learn and acquire new knowledge and learn from the people around me that are more experienced, more intelligent, have more wisdom, or maybe that's from a book, right? Um, and no, I think that's definitely a great precursor to anything that's going to be positive and productive and I think yeah, gratitude is it's a solution that leads to maybe better solutions for
Hmm.
a tennis match, a nervous moment within a tennis match like you mentioned, um, and it's in from what I have read from scientists that are much more well versed in this topic, that they do this every day, is that we cannot feel stressed or anxiety when we're thinking about gratitude and thankfulness. So I think
Hmm.
it's a profound message that we can apply to a tennis match. Absolutely.
Hmm. So, when I chatted with Marcelo a few weeks ago, this was, I think it was before we started recording. I was asking him about your kind of role on the team, and he said that this isn't an exact quote, but this is kind of summarizing it. He said something like, Jamie is one of the smartest tacticians or one of the smartest strategy minds that I've ever played with. Why did he say that?
Wow. Well, first of all, I appreciate that those kind words. It's true. We actually had a great partnership for an extended period of time, which is rare on the tour to go for longer than a couple weeks or a couple months, right? Um,
Hmm.
Years is obviously a very exceptional thing. So we played for almost a year, but we also played off and on for several years while he was still playing singles. So we built a relationship during his singles days, and then that eventually transitioned into about a almost 9 month partnership. Um, in 2018, 2019, where we had some great performances, and during that time, you get to know each other. You share your experiences, you share, your thoughts about the game and your approach. Everyone has a different approach philosophically about how to approach, how to run a practice. What to work on in practice. How to approach game planning for opponents. Um, and that's something that I think younger athletes, or let's say less experienced athletes, I don't think age really has anything to do with it, but
Hmm.
less experienced athletes do not apply those concepts. They're just kind of out there playing and just kind of figuring out and competing, and like maybe they're really really talented, um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be successful because they don't have a successful game plan, right? And so that's something that I think it can add a lot of value to any athlete that's just kind of going through the motions, right? And I think quite a few athletes do that, and they not necessarily young or old. Again, like there's a lot of very successful world class, top 100, top 50, even higher, I would say, athletes that are doing extremely well financially and having a lot of success, but they don't even necessarily know how they're winning matches, other than
Hmm.
nuking a huge serve, nuking a huge forehand, right? That's common, right? We all know about that.
Sure.
But then what, right? What's the plan? Are we just trying to rip and go huge, big, big, big? And you know, that is a strategy. But
Yeah.
there's a lot. there's a lot more to it with X's and O's, and in both singles and doubles, by the way. I've worked with singles athletes, um, and applying actually the same approach. The approach is exactly the same. The only difference is that there's two, athletes competing versus four in doubles, right? So actually, it's in my view, it's different, but it takes a little bit more time to game plan for 2-on-2 than it does 1-on-1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are different dynamics, but there's four moving parts, so you have to take those things into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's a big part of it. But no, I appreciate what you said, and Cello and I definitely. It was interesting because when we were partners, it's tough to be. Um, I don't think a coach is the right word, but it's tough to demand that your partner does a certain game plan when they feel like they're also very intelligent, they're also very experienced, they also have a game plan, they also have their opinions. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a tricky thing to communicate in a way that your partner will buy in. And he did to a certain degree, but it also that type of relationship can also cause some, let's say, disagreement, depending on the matchup, right? And depending on what that, especially younger, and if we don't have a coach leading us, we had some support, but um, he didn't. The interesting thing that I've learned is that he didn't always agree, and he did. He was very open, and that it's actually incredible how open he is as a human being and a learner. He loves learning, but I've noticed that he's matured so much in the last, what has it been, almost 5 years now, and
Mm-hmm.
evolved as a human being so much in the last 5 years in terms of his openness to receiving knowledge. Um, and it's impressive. It really is, because like, look, everyone's so successful on the tour. They're the best in their town. They're the best in their state, their country. Um, they're the best of the best, and so they all believe that they know a lot about the game. So it's tough. It's difficult to break down those walls and those barriers. Um, and so he definitely has a growth mindset, which is actually what we teach at Inspire. It's the foundation of everything we do is um, focusing on and conveying the teachings of a growth mindset and what that is. And I think Cello is absolutely, um, I mean, he's a poster child for that exact concept, and it's an honor to work with him every day. It's a pleasure, and I can't think of anybody in my recent memory. I mean, everyone on the team's great, but he really is extremely open and just wants to just learn every day, and it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Talk a little bit about the 2 weeks during the recent French Open title from your perspective. We heard from Cello a couple weeks ago. He talked about how kind of stressful it can be from a player's perspective, having to always keep your body ready, having to always keep your mind ready, always stay focused for 2 consecutive weeks, day after day. And he even said that he was a little bit sick on the Monday after they won, or I guess Sunday after they won.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
because his body just like needed a break and was like tired of it. But what about from a coaching perspective? For a lot of people listening, we've had a lot of
mm,
players on the podcast before,
mm,
and we've had some coaches, but not so many coaches who have recently been part of a team that won a Grand Slam. So talk about what
mm,
those 2 weeks were like for you.
mm. Yeah, loaded question. And again, thanks for asking. I agree with Cello in many respects. I mean, just in terms of the level of exhaustion after, um, you don't think about it because you're just so dialed
Mm,
during the actual process of creating everything that we as a team created. Um, and there's a lot that goes into that. Everyone has their role. The clarity of each member of the team's role is, uh, in my view, extremely, you know, well manicured, and everyone had a clear understanding of what it is that needed to be done each day, which made it actually quite easy to just do it. So there was no confusion, which is, I think, extremely powerful. Um, and that created a great sense of unity, which was pretty cool. But afterwards, I mean, there's adrenaline going, and there's the thrill of victory, and there's the emotion that's also exhausting. There's the lack of sleep that somehow inspires you to give more, which is
Mhm.
also an interesting concept.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, we finished our match against the Tsitsipas brothers, who played extremely high level doubles. I think maybe perhaps the best doubles they've ever played. So big credit to them. And obviously, we're amazing athletes and really pretty nice guys too. Um, and so we finished that match, and we knew we had to play arguably the best team in the world in the next round. I mean, amazing opponents, really good guys, but they were dominant for much of the clay court season going into that match. And it was like we instantly knew that like this was crunch time, that we had to really kind of buckle down, individually, but absolutely, collectively as a team to prepare as best as we possibly could. And I know that I had that feeling immediately. It was like, okay, great job, great work, but this is go time right now, going into the semifinal.
Mhm.
So there was definitely not much sleep that night from my perspective, if
Yeah.
any at all.
Okay.
Um,
So what were you
so
doing? Were you just watching film on the opponents all night, or going through?
uh,
I guess start with your role on the team, if you can share any insights on that.
yeah, I mean, like, so at Inspired, we have about 5 athletes now signed with the team. So we have a kind of a unique approach, and there's a lot of things that we do. In the number one thing, it starts before we even step on a tennis court, is we focus on a mindset, acquiring the correct mindset to optimize performance, right? And I tell that to all the guys. And I'm helping one female athlete as well. Kind of, it's not official, but we're been kind of helping a few other athletes and juniors as well. And that's just the foundation, right? So we set a foundation by kind of getting into the psychology of sport, really, and acquiring where are you mindset wise. We have a discussion about how you feel about your game, how you feel about your approach. um, I definitely watch matches on seeing how they perform, seeing how is their body language, how do they respond in this scenario, that scenario,
Hmm.
in various important moments throughout a match. And we work on that stuff. We discuss these things. We're open about these topics that are oftentimes kind of discarded or swept under the rug, or ignored, and not tough topics that people don't want to talk about, because it's a challenge, right?
Hmm.
So I often ask the question, how many times do you rep your serve at practice each day? How many times do you rep your return, your second serve return, um, you know, volleys, whatever? And might be 10, 20, 50 reps a day, 100. Wow, that's a lot. And then we say, how many times do you rep your mindset every day?
Hmm.
Do you think about that? Do you rep that? Do you focus on it? And oftentimes the answer is, they're not even sure how to respond to that question.
Yeah.
You know, so which leads to a really healthy discussion about whatever's going on in the athlete's mind. And
Hmm.
it's every athlete's different. There's no set formula. I do have a formula that I use. Can't tell you all the secrets, but you know, I will say that it's something that starts with a question, and then it kind of deviates based on what type of response I get from the athlete.
Hmm.
And then we create a solution that's going to best fit, Cello, for example, things that he's
Sure.
going through, and some things that were happening in Madrid that were just not good, that were extremely clear to me. I was there, so I watched the match live, but I also watched the match another 3, 4, 8, 15 times to make sure what I saw was accurate. Because of course, if I'm not giving the guys accurate information, then I'm not adding value. So I definitely
Hmm.
take a lot of time to make sure it's accurate. And then that in doing that, we build trust. Right. And so once that translates into a match win, then the trust grows and that's the formula. So um, it's a lot of fun. It's not easy, but it's fun doing it. And that's another big component to what we do at Inspired. I mean, I want the guys smiling. I want them having fun. I want them, like, this is a game that we should love and like you just mentioned, have gratitude just for being able to step on the tennis court. That's a big thing for me personally, just be able to be around the game, which I love, and being able to inspire these guys to be their best selves. Um, it's emotional stuff, man, and
Hmm.
they definitely feel that. And if they don't, then they're not the right fit for the Inspired team. And I tell these guys that every day, and I share that message. I mean, I really appreciate how dialed in you are on the things that we've talked about, right? Because it's one thing to say things, it's
Yeah.
another thing to actually take the action and do it. And I've noticed that, you know, some guys more than others, but everyone is doing what they say they're going to do. And that follow through is extremely powerful. And the guys that do it more, the girls athletes that do it more, they perform better. So,
Hmm.
it's a simple, really simple thing and a cause and effect, but it's an investment, like they're investing in me. I'm investing in them. So in a lot of these relationships have been like pretty organic in that they were pre-existing. Maybe I played doubles with them, so they knew me a bit. They knew kind of my attitude, my work ethic. So I'm grateful to have had that pre-existing relationship,
Hmm.
which made creating this, let's say, a bit easier. Um, but then there's also some newer relationships too that are kind of maybe they're saying,
Sure.
hey, I like what's happening here, and I'm interested in seeing how things are done, and those are like I'd say more difficult relationships to cultivate, and they take time, they take effort, um, they take reps, right? It's reps and
Yeah.
mistakes because it's not perfect. I don't believe in perfection. Look, they want to slam. Look, I never thought it was going to happen as quickly as it did, and I'm extremely grateful. But it wasn't perfect, right? There were a
Hmm.
lot of mistakes made throughout those 2 weeks. Um, but I will say that their mindset was what, in my view, empowered them to move forward regardless of the mistakes. And that
Mm.
was the thing that I was most proud of to see both of these guys, both Cello and Mate, and everyone on the team, because the coaches make mistakes. We're all human.
Sure.
But how do we respond to those is I think, what really is an indicator of your character and really just commitment to the process. Because for me, it's a year. Everyone that's signed with our team it's a year. And could it happen in a month? Maybe, but there's no magic pill. It's just you just show up
Sure.
every day, and then if things click and you really assume that leadership role, and Cello's really evolved into a very impressive leader, and that's really my ultimate goal for anyone that works with Inspired is to, when they leave this experience, to feel like they are becoming a really good leader of themselves, of their team if they have a team, their doubles partner if they have a doubles partner, um, and of course their family and their friends and so on. So it's been
How can, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's all.
Um, so you mentioned how often do you rep your mindset? That's it, which is a great question. How can, so let's say a lot of people listening, club level doubles players, they
Mm,
play in their local USTA league maybe two, three times a week. So it's not as high a level as you're
mm,
working with right now,
mm,
but they feel like they don't always have perform at their best level, right? And maybe they come
mm,
out flat during a match, or maybe they
mm,
struggle during a tiebreaker, or maybe they lose a lot after winning the first set. How can they improve their mindset? How can they rep their mindset? Where would they get started? If you
mm,
have any like resources or books or anything that you'd
mm,
recommend, how
mm.
can somebody start to improve their mindset?
I mean, first thing they can do is just give me a call. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, no, I mean, look, there's a lot of things we can do. I mean, the basic thing that everyone has heard before, this is nothing new, so it's nothing profound or original, but focus on your breathing. We've all heard that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we try it once or twice, and then it works the first time, so we keep doing it. And the moment it doesn't work, well, we say, oh well, that didn't work that time, so now we're going to give up on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an easy excuse, oh, it didn't work, so it must not really be true, right? So those are perfectionists, right? Perfectionists
Mm-hmm.
are very common, and perfectionism is a very, I think, dangerous and slippery slope to imperfectionism. And I know a lot of people like that, a lot of human beings, a lot of athletes, right? They're striving for perfection when we
Mm-hmm.
should actually, in fact, be striving for progress,
Yeah.
right? There's a big difference, right? I don't believe in perfection. I believe that when we acquire a growth mindset, which is really just improving daily, then, and we've heard this before, like 1% better each day leads to massive growth over the course of a long period of time, which would be a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't do anything on a week to week basis. Working with an athlete a while back, and they wanted to do this week to week thing, and I said I appreciate you, and it's been a really wonderful experience. However, that's not how I believe we can really truly create something optimal and really
Mm-hmm.
create the performance level and the results that ultimately we want, because we want to take care of business and get great results. But a lot of people want that. They want that, like, I need it now. I need it right now. You need that pill, that magic pill that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right? So, in answering your original question, that same concept applies to, well, why don't we just focus on our breathing, but do it every time and see
Mm-hmm.
how that works over the course of a year or even a month
Sure.
or even a week. If they make one mistake, and then it's the end of the world. Like it's like, woe is me, and then they can't get past that one mistake. But even if they made 9 previous balls that were really really good points, and then the 10th ball is a
The
disaster, well,
mistake. Yeah.
you just made 90%,
Yeah. That's
right?
pretty
Or
good.
even 51%. I'll take 51% any day, because there's a good
Yeah.
chance you're going to win that day, right?
Right.
So it's like, I don't know if you actually if you watch. I don't really watch too much Netflix and series, but I do occasionally. And Teddy Lasso is something very
Mm-hmm.
inspiring to me. And I don't know if you watch Ted Lasso, but
I
he
did.
says,
Yeah. It's good.
think like a goldfish, right? It works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes less is more. And every one thing that I get is, I learn the most, absolutely the most, when I actually have a conversation with an athlete.
Mm.
I could read 8,000 books, but I'll learn way more from one conversation, or just listening to the athlete. Listening to what the athlete has to say will teach me way more,
Yeah.
right? When I really truly listen to what they're saying. And then we can have an understanding of what the athlete needs, what the correct solution is for that individual athlete,
Sure. Yeah, that
right?
makes sense. Yeah, everything has to be kind of customized, and it's kind of something I've talked about previously on the podcast when people do ask me a question like, how do I play better when I get nervous or whatever it is. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
it's different for everybody. Like some people
Mm-hmm.
love the breathing thing. Some people love to like bounce up on their toes. Some people love to like think about the sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Some people love to talk with their doubles partner, and that releases that tension. It's
Mm-hmm.
just different for everybody, and I feel like
Yeah.
the ability to just test and experiment and figure out what works best for you is super important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I wanted to ask, jump into your story. So tell us, how did you get started in tennis? You had a pretty successful career, reaching number 45 in the world, 4 career titles, Wimbledon quarterfinal, and then now, of course, coaching as well. So tell us from the beginning, like where were you born? How did you get started in tennis, and kind of go through your story for us?
Thanks for asking. So to be clear, I don't really consider myself a coach per se. but more of like a
Okay.
mindset manager and a career tennis career advisor is kind of more
Okay.
my role. You know, of course, there's coaching that goes in there, but there's kind of a more I would say a different title there. Um, but thank you for asking. I mean, I was very fortunate to have two parents that were crazy supportive and loving, and I have two older sisters that also played the game of tennis and a lot of other sports. We played a lot of sports growing up, and my dad was very instrumental in coaching. He was definitely a coach and very dialed and very intense, like many of the tennis parents of the universe, of the world. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just basic kind of upbringing like that, and very simple but hardworking. And I looked up to my older sisters. I looked up to them, and they inspired me to want to beat them. Really, I was very competitive. My dad's very competitive, and so yeah, that was just kind of how it started. Junior tournaments, local tournaments, USTA tournaments, um, and then of course to the national level, did okay. Was never the top player, but played college tennis at Brown and had an amazing experience there, and 4 years that I will just cherish forever. With a great group of guys, great coaching, obviously a world class academic institution as well. So it was a wonderful experience that, when I finished there, I was actually considering it a few times early on to go pro. Even in high school, I was approached because I was a pretty good singles player actually growing up. I was very good, locally. I wasn't number one in the country, but I was around like 30, but played a lot of other sports. So I wasn't never a full time tennis player. I was like a baseball. I played basketball.
Mm.
Um, so I kind of did it all and never really specialized till college. Um, so yeah, I still had a lot left in the system and kind of gave it a try and started playing futures and did okay in singles. Got to about 620, I think was my best, but excelled more in doubles and made an early transition in my mid 20s into doubles. And I was a serve volley singles player, so that brand was not I was kind of dying with the court surface slowing down, and I mean
Yeah.
I didn't have a massive cannon serve, so definitely depended a lot on my feel, my volley, my net play, and transition game, um, which translated really well into the doubles, of course. And so that's kind of how it all started. And so I made that transition and moved up relatively quickly in doubles. So it was something that I was definitely all in, dialed. I think I played something like 44 weeks my first year on tour, which is just
Gosh.
I, incredible to think about. Can't believe I did that, but clearly there's a passion there, and I do love
Yeah.
the game. I have utmost respect for the game, and look, it's a game that you can just learn so much from every day, and it's constantly evolving. It's constantly new players, new talent, new technology, new challenges, rule changes sometimes, but everyone's so good. There's so much depth. Um,
Hmm.
you know, even the players that are, like Popana, 44, number one in the world this year, like winning his first slam, like that stuff's inspiring. And, everyone in the game is trying to find a new edge and how do you get better? How do you, refine this detail, do some yoga, nutrition, longevity, sleep, wellness, all that stuff, strength training, you know, hydration. And so, I mean, look, I think the next step is you're going to play till 50, right? And I believe that humanity is evolving, not just in sport, but people I think will start living till 120, 150 even. I heard that the longest potential lifespan right now is 180 years, um, from a scientist that's like a super well known nutritionist and for health, wellness, and longevity. So we're in a generation where we have so much knowledge. Life is good. We're extremely fortunate to have resources to not have to worry about, hopefully war and, you know, borderline, for lack of a better word, ridiculous things like that. But that's
Hmm.
still plague society. But we're in a very, um, I think, optimistic. I like to think that we're in an optimistic time in life where, hopefully people are evolving. I know there's definitely some conflicts around the world, but will enable us to evolve further and continue seeking knowledge and and it's fun to be a part of that. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
journey. That's why I played as long as I did. I mean, I just love the game, and I was learning so much. And doubles is a game also it's a thinking man's game. You can't just like bomb a serve and the point's over. Like
Yeah.
that's a misconception. Like there's a lot of ways to win doubles points with the lob, um, with block returning. Obviously you can be aggressive returner as well. You can be a big server. You can have you can be a spot server and then work
Hmm.
together with your partner to create opportunities. Um, which is, it's fun to learn these skill sets, which are there's a ton of really cool dynamics that are at play, that are vastly different than the game of
Hmm.
singles, And so, um, I think it's yeah, that's what made it so much fun for me to keep playing as long as possible, and I love being around the
Yeah.
guys now and watching them, you know, pave their journeys as well, and to be a small part of that journey is
All right, we're back. Had a little internet issue there. So I wanted to jump to strategy a bit, and actually ask specifically about that semifinal match. So they are playing Granollers and Zeballos, the best team in the world at the time. Maybe still the best team in the world. Who knows? They had just won Rome. They beat Mate and Cello in the finals in Rome. I think it was 2-2. They win the first set against Cello and Mate, I think 6-3. So how do they turn that match around?
that is the question, isn't it?
So I will tell you one thing that Cello said last week. Is that they started going a little bigger because they thought if we're playing well, but these guys are playing the best in the world. So if we keep playing this way, we're going to lose a set 6-2 or 6-3 or 6-4 again because they're playing better than us. So we have to take a risk and go bigger. And he said they
Mhm.
took that risk, they went bigger, and the balls landed in. To kind of put it simply, I know it's a little more complicated than that, but that was his answer. So feel free to answer any way you like, if you agree, disagree, or have your own answer.
Well, look, at the end of the day, what's very important to know is that the players are the ones that win these matches. All right. Teams teams win matches together. And they don't do it alone. It's definitely a team, absolutely. But they're the ones that strike the ball, so they know, what they did. That's for sure.
Hmm.
I know that being a player. I mean, we remember every point, every little kind of nuance, right? Um, but I will. So, in responding to Cello's comment, I mean, look, you got to go big to have a chance against players that are extremely efficient. They're extremely effective, and they have a very, talking about Marcel and Zeballos now. I mean, they have a very clear understanding of the game, and
Hmm.
they have great clarity on what their purpose is, what their intention is, for every point. For every scenario, wherever they're standing on a tennis court, they know exactly where to be and what shot to use to optimally maximize their chances of winning that point. And so, knowing that, it's extremely important that we are able to match that. Right? We have to match that sense of clarity, but having that awareness. We use that word a
Hmm.
lot. Awareness is key. Right? So I would say it's a combination of what Cello said. I absolutely agree with that. Having using power, and being aggressive, and trusting the preparation, and so being aggressive in going for more, like you said, and at the same time utilizing the awareness of what is the purpose for the shot. Right.
Hmm.
So being extremely mindful. with that aggressiveness. Uh, is in my view um, the reason in how they were able to kind of turn things around, and
Yeah.
tactically making the adjustments that needed to be made, but doing it aggressively, right?
Okay.
And that was huge. That was huge, and that takes a lot of trust. Like trust in the game plan, trust in the team and the strategy that we had for this matchup, especially like you said, having known that they were, it was a match that we just played them 25 days before that,
Hmm.
right? It was a matchup that we knew that we needed to be dialed in order to just give ourselves our optimize our chances of being successful. Like
Sure.
giving ourselves our best chance to win. And they had that awareness. They definitely knew the what the stakes were in a semi of a slam. Like you said, those guys are, like you said, arguably the best, still the best. And there's, I think, 3, 4, 5 teams that are really, really, really good.
Yeah.
The rest of the teams in the world are right there. So the margins are tiny.
Yeah.
And so they have great awareness of what those margins are and how to maximize the skill sets within those margins to really enable themselves to win those tiny little battles, right? The little
Hmm.
detailed battles, and that's really, I think, what made the difference for them in that matchup. And I saw those boys here, huge respect. I mean,
Yeah.
for everything that they've done in the game, and they're getting better every day, and being number one in the world, and all the accomplishments, and we definitely have the appreciation for their level because it really inspired us to raise our level, and
Hmm.
that's kind of what it's all about. So
For
it was an
sure.
honor to be part of that. Huge
For
honor to
sure.
be a part of that.
How does somebody listening raise their awareness or train their awareness? And why is that so important to be aware on the court?
That's the best question you've asked so far, man. You've asked some great questions. It's a really, really, really important, and that's the game changer question. It's I think it starts with really having an awareness of what your goals are, first of all, right? What's your goal? Why are you doing this? Are you trying to be? Let's talk about a club player like these listeners that you have now. Are you trying to be the best player here? Are you trying to be the number one doubles team on the team,
Say
right?
I want to
Right.
win my league.
Yeah, you want to win the league, right? So how
Yeah,
do you do
let's
that?
say
I
that.
mean, you want to be the best individual player we can be. You want to win the league. Well, look, who's the best? Get to know what is that level.
Hmm.
All right, like watch it, study it, get to know it, get to know
Hmm.
that player and that team, and understand what it's going to take to beat someone like that. All right, so that's step one. That's awareness.
Hmm.
Step two is put the work in, do the reps. Right, like are you willing to actually invest that time and energy to get the necessary reps in to be extremely confident that you're ready to have success against the best player in the league, right?
Hmm.
Because if you are not, then you will not be successful.
Yeah.
If you are willing to do those reps, then look, we're going to optimize our chances to be successful. It's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
There's no guarantees, but we will give ourselves our best chance, right? So that's kind of that's how we operate at Inspire. We optimize our chances, our opportunity to be successful,
Hmm.
right? And that's all we can ask for. That's a very powerful way of thinking, right? Because there's no, you don't, we don't, we're not going to beat ourselves up. We're not going to feel like, oh, I didn't give my best. I gave my absolute best. That's a good feeling.
Hmm.
But it can be scary at the same time because a lot of people are not willing to put that all that effort in and not have a guarantee,
Right.
right? But the
Yeah.
guarantee is, at the end of the day, you gave everything you had. So we know what our best self is. That's the goal. The goal is to be our best self. If that's 80 in the world, if it's 100 in the world, if it's number one, if it's best in the league locally, or silver medal or honorable mention. But it's nice to know what our true level is.
Hmm.
And by the way, I don't think that that's something that's ever finite. I think we can always be playing the infinite game of improvement,
Sure.
which is pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
How do we, uh, I guess two-part question here. I know a couple more here and then I'll let you go.
Mm,
So how do we scout opponents? And
mm.
then also, how do you think about making in-match adjustments? You can
Great
answer
question.
those together or separately.
Um, you might have to upgrade for the paid service if you want me to give the full answer to that.
Okay, give us the preview so
I'm
people
kidding. I'm
reach
kidding.
out
I'm
and
kidding. I'm kidding. It's a great question, man. Right? That's really what we talk about every day, right? Literally. So, I mean, you're getting into the nuts and the bolts of it now. We're talking tennis now, and you have to, you know, look, talking about a local match, in a a league match.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, how many times have we played these opponents? Right, that's a question you can ask. Right, do we remember what happened in the last matchup?
Yeah.
Right, so that's the first thing we can think about if we're one of your listeners. And what was good? What did we do really well? What did we do really poorly? Right. So if we did something really well, keep doing it. Right. If it was having success, if there's something that we were not doing well, let's work on that. Let's improve it to a certain degree, and let's like in kind of summarizing comprehensively, make that adjustment. Right. Or maybe don't do that as much.
Yeah.
Do the successful things more. Right. Focus on those things. Like focus on your strengths, which is important. Right. When we focus on the good, what happens? We create more good. Pretty basic, right? But extremely powerful. Right? A lot of people, what they do is when they lose a match, we're very emotional beings as humans, and we automatically think so much emotionally about the terrible things that happen, the bad shots, the mistakes, the unforced errors. And when we focus on the bad, what happens? We create more bad. So it's pretty simple thinking, actually. So when we can create that clarity, so we're getting into mindset again. When we have a great sense of clarity about those two concepts that I just discussed, then okay, now what are we going to choose? We're going to choose focus on the good or the bad, and that's the decision that I can't make for you, but I can help lead you in the right direction, right, and make
Mm.
it an easier decision, right? So focusing on the good is very powerful, creating more good, and then in match adjustments. Look, if I'm there, or if your coach is there, or your advisor is there, or whoever is working with you is at the match, that's a huge value add, because if they're dialed in and truly paying very close attention to what's happening, and there's trust, then we develop a dialogue on how to communicate efficiently, because you've got to be super efficient. There's not much time between points, right? Then we can make some adjustments when necessary.
Yeah.
That's,
Sorry,
that's
it sounds like your fingers over the mic.
How's
Sorry.
that?
That's better.
Sorry. So
No,
I
no,
don't know
no.
if you heard me.
No, no,
Where did I leave
I
off?
could hear most of it. Yeah, yeah. So if you have a coach, well, let's assume you don't have a coach or
Mhm.
anybody there to help you with the in-match adjustments. How do you do this kind of as a player on the court?
Journaling is so powerful, and everyone
Okay.
everyone that I work with got to have a journal. I mean,
Mm,
this is huge. You could be your own coach. I mean, at the
yeah.
end of the day, if you really are truly dialed on acquiring knowledge, repeating it over and over and learning and making it like these small little adjustments here and there, then you'll have the power to, coach and advise yourself, lead yourself. Like I
Hmm.
said, we're trying to create good leaders here, right? And so having a journal is a really simple and efficient and effective way to do that. And you'll see a lot of great athletes. They have their journal right with them on the bench and they'll open it up on the changeovers. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not just talking like 12, 14, 16-year-old juniors. We're talking pro athletes,
Yeah.
college level, college level and professional athletes, right? I mean, I remember watching Jim Courier. He used to do it back in the day. He was a total beast, super smart guy, and loved to read. And he had his journal with him. And I remember that's just kind of my childhood. It was inspiring to see that. But you see it now all the time. All the time, the guys are out there and they're looking through it. Not everyone, but you know,
Yeah. And
if they're
a
not
lot of
on their
players
own,
I've had, yeah, a lot of players
yeah,
I've had on the podcast have told me they have a journal where they keep notes like that, and it's super helpful.
definitely, definitely.
Okay, so a couple rapid fire questions, then we'll hop off here. What is your favorite tournament?
Wow, so many good ones, man. I kind of just love them all.
Yeah.
They're all so unique. They're all Everyone is trying so hard to give their best effort to provide a quality event. And I can't help but just have so much respect for everyone that's trying to do their best to create a quality event for athletes, especially traveling around the world. I mean, again, gratitude, so blessed to do what we do. So I think the short answer was I just really appreciate all the people that are working tirelessly to create a great event for everyone that's blessed enough to play in them. So
Hmm.
not one stands out. They're all so good.
Yeah,
And I think they're all unique and good in different ways. So I think
for
it's
sure.
unfair to compare them. But if I had to say one right now, just because it went really well recently, I'm very grateful for everyone that created such an amazing experience in Roland Garros. They went above and beyond at the end of the tournament to have a post title kind of cocktail party for everyone with champagne and stuff. So that
Cool.
was pretty special. I'm not really a drinker, but I had some champagne that night and
Yeah,
definitely appreciate the effort that they made. And that goes, I think, for every tournament director around the world. So
sure. Do you have a favorite tennis book or book that you recommend to tennis players?
I think anyone that really wants to know how to be a great athlete and thinker on the tennis court has to read The Inner Game of Tennis.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
so basic, it's so old school, but it's so real and it applies today and it will always apply on if you want
I
to be an
will.
optimal athlete. Yeah, it's there's some deep thinking in there, and you don't have to really go that deep, but there's some surface stuff that is just so powerful, so
Hmm.
applicable.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely that. It's gonna be for sure. It's like a timeless book. It'll be
Yeah,
always applicable.
yeah.
Uh, do you have a favorite non-tennis book or non-tennis
Mm.
book that you recommend to people?
I have a collection of books that I travel with actually, almost like a mini library.
Okay.
So I'm constantly reading different topics to try to, add value and improve. To say one book that I
It can be
really,
more than one or a recent one that you've enjoyed.
I mean, there's so many. I'm really into leadership right now and reading
Hmm.
about different leadership skills. Mindful listening is something that I'm working on at the moment. It's really added a lot of value in my life. And I think it's adding value for the people around me to really kind of listen and learn and help improve, whether it's myself or others or people on our team and teams. There are a lot of teams, plural, that I'm working with, and it's important to really understand what people are thinking and really appreciate their perspective before we make a decision. So I find that to be really empowering, and really anything that has to do with like mindful listening, leadership, um, awareness, self awareness, and of course gratitude. I love those topics.
Yeah. So last question for you. How can we make doubles more popular?
I think there's a long list of things that we could do to add a lot of value. Um, I've thought about this for many years, even in recent, weeks and months. I take a lot of time to sit down and create, right? It's all about creating value. I had a great conversation earlier with Mark Knowles, who's on the board of the ATP, and he's, great tennis player, top 100 singles, #1 in the world doubles, and is now, working to try to create some solutions to add value. And look, I think the simplest thing to do is to create a team of people that care, that truly want to invest and give their time, energy, and effort into creating that value. And what's an actual example of that would be, I mean, something so simple like for example on tennis TV, I think that we can have all the doubles matches with commentary. I think that's a very basic and simple thing that
Yeah.
we could do to create a narrative, have some great storytelling about all the incredible things that are happening on the tour. Talk about the teamwork and the team dynamics, the leadership skills that are being developed amongst these human beings that are they're really impressive.
Hmm.
And just tell the stories of people like Cello, who came from El Salvador and then went, used the opportunity of tennis to go to college in the United States, which has an incredible college tennis system. One, obviously, an amazing country with incredible educators. Um, to just bring out the best in his talents. And then from he went to Tulsa University, and then from there to go on to the pro tour and take it to another level. And then move to the United States, still maintain his crazy loyalty to a very inspiring loyalty to El Salvador. It's like it's such a cool story,
Yeah.
and that's a story that I think could be told, simultaneously while watching him play incredible doubles, and incredible tennis, and very tactical and very mindful tennis. So I think commentary during those matches would be a very basic and simple thing to do to create those storylines, those human interest stories, which is a great advertisement, right? Great advertisement for the game. And I just feel I tell him all the time. It's just like, he's like a salt of the earth guy who just wants to help and wants to know like what's happening. Like he talks to fans all the time, and like you go around tournaments and everyone comes up to him like that he knows from year to year to year. That's just like they're so pumped to see him, and he's just like so willing to give his time and energy, and has so much empathy. And it's inspiring, man. I feel like I become a better person just
Yeah.
it, observing that, outside the tennis. So look, I
100%.
think there's a lot of stories like that, and so many other guys too, not just Cello. So many guys that are that way and went to college and have that story and experience, and singles guys too. So many great tennis players like Yannick Hanfmann went to USC and just had a great match against Yannick Sinner, on center court. Like it's pretty cool,
Hmm.
So it's not just singles or doubles. I think that they're two incredible games within the overall framework of the game of tennis. And some people play singles. I think most people play doubles, locally
Yeah.
and at the club level, so they can relate to that. And I think creating great relationships between fans and players, it's all about being able to relate to each other, right? The word relationship's about relating. And so
Hmm.
fans can really relate to doubles players, which is very powerful. So when we can create that narrative, create opportunities to have more fan player interaction as well, I think that's another great way to promote the game. And um, you know, I think basic stuff like putting the names on the back of shirts is so simple. Obviously promoting it on websites and promoting it on ATP websites, and getting some matches on TV is obviously a basic thing too. But you got to tell the story of who these people are and create the image and name, image, and likeness of these people, of these athletes, to create the following that would accompany that. So,
Yeah.
those are just a couple ideas. Another cool idea that I have now that you mentioned it, we talk about this a
Hmm.
lot. I think that at the end of a doubles match, if the winning team stayed on and played like 2 points against two lucky fans, like two young kids or
Yeah.
something,
That'd be
I think
cool.
that would be a pretty cool thing. Like
Yeah.
basic, maybe the ticket holders of that day go into a lottery and they draw it out of a hat, and then suddenly
Sure.
two young kids who are just like can't believe that they get to play against two pros or like fans for life. So you get two times what? I don't know, 16 match. So you get 32 fans who tell all their friends at school on Monday that they just
Yeah.
met these tennis players. So then that time, then it becomes exponential, and then now there's like 64,000 fans now that love doubles and want to go to the next tournament to maybe be able to play. Get the chance to play with some stars. I think that's a cool idea that would cost nothing, and actually you could probably even charge a small fee for that, so you can generate some revenue as well in that way. So simple
Yeah,
ideas like that.
tons of yeah, I agree. Yeah, tons of little things like that'll have like snowball and have a big impact in the long run, for sure.
I think so. I think so.
Awesome,
Definitely.
Jamie. Well, thank you a ton for joining me. I appreciate it. And to everyone listening, I'll include links to everything we talked about in the show notes. Any last requests of the audience or final comments before we hop off here, Jamie?
Oh, you asking me? Oh
Yeah,
no, I just no, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I think that yeah, all these things are really great questions, and again, grateful to be on it, and just wishing all your loyal listeners to stay inspired and have fun out there.
awesome. Thanks again. If you want to become a smarter doubles player and start winning more matches, then join the Tennis Tribe Doubles Strategy newsletter. Every single Thursday, I'll send you a new doubles tip or tactic that you can use in your very next match. And when you join, you're going to get a free guide on how to play with more confidence and start dominating at the net in doubles. My name's Will, I'm the founder of the Tennis Tribe, and over the last 5 years, I've worked with players at every level of the game, from USTA 3.0 players all the way to Division I college programs, as well as some of the top 10 doubles players in the world. And on Thursdays, with this strategy newsletter, I share that knowledge and advice that I've gained over the years with you. So to sign up, you can go to thetennistribe.com. And again, you'll get that free net play guide when you join.